Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is actually something that I filmed a long time ago, but I wanted to upload it now because I've refound the footage, and it's just on how to create bruises, and it's the things that I've learned at school about bruising and how to create them. And I'm going to do 3 stages of bruising for you, first, second and third being a couple of days apart. So I hope you guys like this video and let's get started. Okay, first of all I'm going to tell you the colours I'll be working with today, and I'm going to be using these Ben Nye cream colours in blood red and grey purple. I'll also be mixing some of the colours from the Crayola Super Colour Rainbow Circle and the Ben Nye Ultimate FX HD palette. This last palette is perfect if you want to get into special effects because it's got so many colours in it. To start off, I'm just taking a clear palette, and what I'm doing is I'm just taking portions of these colours. Okay, so I've got quite a good range of colours now. I've got a sort of moss green, a mustardy sort of yellow colour, just the blue, red and yellow and black. I've got the purple and the red in the Ben Nye creams that I showed you, and I've got just one of the darker reds from the FX palette. Okay, so to start off with a fresh bruise, fresh bruises are generally reds and pinks because they are, as I said, fresh to the skin, the blood's just swelled up and you've just hit them. So this is probably the day of or day after. And what I like to do is I'm just going to use my fingers. I think it works best when you use your fingers, and I'm just taking the tiniest bit of that bright red shade. So on my finger I don't have a lot, and I've sort of smeared it out onto the palette so that it is not as opaque on my finger. And what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to create a sort of random shape. Now you can create these in whatever shape you like, and you can create them specifically for you know, certain injuries or anything like that, but I'm just going to do sort of odd shapes today just to show you sort of what you can do and how you can create a bruise. So with the edges I'm just really blending them out. I'm using quite a light hand, and I'm just, as you can see, spreading the product around. I'm not letting it sit in any chunky areas, and I'm just sort of blending all the edges, making it look like it is mixed in with my skin and it's not just makeup sitting on top of my skin. Then I'm going to go in with a little bit of the darker red in the single Ben Nye colours, the blood red, and I'm just going to add some depth using that colour. So you want your bruises to be quite random. I don't know about you, but whenever I bruise it doesn't tend to be a particular shape. It's always a little bit weird, and especially when it's healing you always have bits that are a little bit more bruised in the end than others, a little bit more purple in the end. So just keep playing around with it and keep making shapes that you like. So I'm still just going in with that darker red colour, and now I'm just going to mix it with a little bit of black. Now I'm taking a tiny bit of the purple colour, and again just smearing it out and adding depth over those areas that we put the black. Next I'm going in with this colour, which is a really dark reddy brown, and just building up the depth again. I'm going to leave this layer a little bit chunkier just so that it sort of looks like there are areas of the bruise that are really quite deep already. Generally speaking, fresh bruises are not yellow. They don't have any yellow in them, but I always like to add a little bit of yellow. I think that it really helps to sort of create that air of a bruise. I always have my personal bruises are quite yellow, so I think maybe that's why. So I'm just going to take a little bit of the mustard colour, and I'm just going to spot that within the bruise. In the lighter areas, and really working that into the skin as well. You don't want there to be large chunks of yellow. Okay, and that's your first bruise. So that's the first stage of bruising. It's a very, very fresh bruise, obviously. We're going to move on to the bruise after a couple of days. So again, I'm just going to start by setting down a base of red. Next, I'm taking some of the mustard colour, and I'm just running that around the edges of the shape that we have created. This is just going to add depth to the base colour of the bruise, and this is generally the areas that start to heal first. So when your bruises go yellow, it is them healing, it is the blood dispersing from underneath the skin, so that yellow color around the outside of a sort of 3 to 4 day old bruise, maybe 5 days old, depending how quickly you heal, is just a great way to simulate that bruise and that skin starting to heal. I'm going to take some of the bright yellow as well. Okay, next I'm starting off with that dark brown color. And I am just going to start working in that shape. And as you can see, I'm swapping between the finger that has the product on it and this one that's reasonably clean. It doesn't look clean anymore, but it actually doesn't have any product on it. It is just my blending finger, so I just sort of swap between the two. Then we're going to go in with the blood red and again just add some depth. Next, I'm taking some of the purple color. And this is really going to add the depth of the old bruise to it compared to the first one. You want to work with a lot of purples, blacks, blues, things like that, because that's what bruises, sort of the color they look like once they are healing a little bit more. So now I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to be using the purple and the black, maybe a bit of blue as well, and I'm just going to sort of fasten this bit up, and I'm just going to let you see how I'm going to build that color up and just play around until I'm happy with it. Okay, another technique that I like to do sometimes, this is just really dependent on my mood I think, is use a sponge like this. So this is just a sort of sea sponge sort of texture. I'm just going to take the corner of that and I'm just going to put that in the blood red color. Just adds a nice sort of blotted texture to the bruise and it layers on that color. Now that the red tones are on, I'm going to go in again with some yellow. So I'm going to start with the bright primary color yellow. I'm just going to pop that in the center again where I said there was going to be some healing. I'm just going to blend that, really blend that into the skin. And then I'm going to take it on the outsides as well and use that color to blend out the edges a little bit better too, now that we've added so many layers on top of that original color. The final touch is I'm going to add some of this green. So it is sort of an olive green color. And where I'm going to add that is just to the edges of the darkest bruised areas. So the edges of the purple areas and the black areas. Finally, we're going to move up the arm and we're going to do a very, very old bruise, so a very, very healed bruise. And I'm going to start off with the mustard yellow color and create a shape. You don't want to start creating a shape with the red color for a healing bruise, just because generally healing bruises don't have a lot of red in them. They're more yellows and purple tones because all the blood is dispersing from under the skin and it is just all the dead or old blood that is left over. Okay, next I'm going to go in with this green color and I'm going to map out a shape that is still healing. It is the leftover skin that is going to be the last bit of the bruise to heal. Next I'm going in with that purple Ben Nye shade, so it is that really dark grey sort of toned purple, and I'm just going to be using it to add depth to the bruise. I mean, obviously I am very new at these things. I am not a special effects makeup artist yet. I am training to be one. So these are just the things that I've been practicing, that I've been learning, and obviously I have a lot of practice to go. These are just really easy bruises that you guys can create at home for Halloween or any sort of themed party like that. So now that the purple's sort of in there, I'm quite happy with the depth of it. I'm then going to go in with the darker red shade, and I'm just going to add some of that on top. Now you want this to be a bit sporadic because most of the colour that this bruise wants to be is the yellow and the purple. So I'm just adding a bit of that on either end and then going in over the top with the purple colour again, just to sort of put that a layer down from the top of the skin. So that is my super quick, super simple 3 stages of bruising for you guys. So you've got the fresh bruise down here that is all reds and pinks. You've got the older bruise here, which is the most common sort of bruise, and it's got a range of yellows, purples and reds in there. I've also put a little bit of green, as you saw. And then you've got the old bruise up here, which is yellows, greens and purples. It is the sort of healing bruise, and personally my favorite. I think it looks the sorest, but that's just me. So I hope this was helpful. Again, it's my first special effects tutorial, so hopefully as I go on this gets better. But if you guys like this tutorial, please give it a thumbs up, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.